Something a little different for you this week.
A little different.
We have in the BoxMac kitchen somebody who's run their own line of mac and cheese.
That's right.
You know him.
Yep.
I know him.
Yep.
They know him.
Yep.
It's the Mac and Cheesus people from this past Christmas.
That's right.
We got Katie Knowles onto Skype.
Yes.
Hey guys.
We've joked about maybe making a Junt Mac or a limited run Mac.
Yeah, I'd like to, I mean, for one, have lots of questions.
Do you?
Lots of questions.
I thought you might.
Yeah.
So this is your opportunity.
This is my opportunity.
To not only learn about a really interesting product that we loved.
Yeah.
And by the way, and like no joke, we really liked it. And then after we did the show, we all bought a bunch.
That's right.
This is John's personal
This is my personal supply. I've been going down through it. I don't eat it too often. Portions are big.
Yeah.
But I have it now and then, and I love it.
Yeah, they are big portions. So when you decide to like make a whole bag,
Yes.
and you always got to make a whole bag.
That's right.
It's a little bit of an investment.
Yeah.
But
You gotta invite over a friend.
we did an unboxing. It's a hilarious product.
They sent us a ton of Jesus Mac.
Jesus was well known for the miracle of laughter, but he also wanted to be like his cousin JC, who fed. So Jesus and Cheesus are cousins. This is kind of like Mormonism and is like another step.
But what I actually really love the most is how great it tastes. It's got great pasta, great cheese. I'm just very curious about that whole process.
Okay, so I'm a designer. I've been a designer my entire career, and I've worked in high tech, a lot of corporate stuff. But I like doing fun things much more.
Yeah.
But you got to balance that out with your the steady stuff. So I just always knew that I wanted to have at least one product before I died. Everybody has great ideas for fun products all the time, and you're like, well, how can I do that? And I was actually working on a candy product that I thought was going to be fun and successful that didn't have any high fructose corn syrup. When that trend was kind of happening, I had an idea about something, and so I was actually test marketing it on our dog sitter, who at the time was 18. This is maybe 5 years ago, roughly. And so I said, hey, because I thought it was cool, but I was considerably older than she was, and I'm like, well, what do you think? And so she thought it was great, but then she said, well, I have a great idea for a product, and so she says Mac and Cheesus, and I was like, that's even better than my idea.
Oh wow!
So I was raised in a huge Catholic family. So when she told me that, I said, is there any way that you would allow me to produce this, because I love it so much, it has to happen. And so she said, well, sure, because she's not a designer. I've done a lot of, packaging work for different companies. And I just knew that I had, the right skills to put into the packaging design. And also because I do a lot of editorial development, all the things. It was just like the perfect thing dropped into my lap.
So like the jokes like anoint thy pasta and all the graphic design and the choice of shapes, that's all you?
Yeah, I got to, I designed the pasta shapes.
Oh,
I did all the
really?
packaging and all the writing. And although I will have to say, and I always give superior credit, my favorite part, and I can't see it, let's see. So one of my favorite parts is this little piece right here that says Christian or Jew, doesn't matter when you chew. So that is courtesy of my best friend from college. She just zinged that one out one day.
Christian or Jew doesn't matter when you chew. And it's Galatians 3:28 paraphrased.
Yeah.
Everybody has great ideas that, yes, the majority of it I have done, but, certainly the original idea was not mine. And I'm really grateful to Haley who thought of it. Haley Parker, she's now a very successful food blogger, dessert focused. She's her name's the Domestic Rebel. And so she, this was her original idea. And so I'm truly the shepherd in some ways of Mac and Cheesus. So then I started doing the research and looking into, who can I find to do the private label or co-packing, depending if you have a recipe that you want done. You can have somebody who has a food facility. You can contact them and say, oh, I have a pasta sauce, I have this, and they will make it for, according to your recipe, or that you can take, their products and do like a private label on it. So essentially this is a private label, but it's custom to, obviously the cheese and the pasta are not my recipe. It's their product, but it's my design, etc. And so I did some changes to the actual packaging, for instance, the way that the package works. Their package wraps the same way, because at first I'm like, well, I really wanted to have it in a box.
Yeah.
But and they were like, no, we know our business, and it should be, it should look like this. but in your head you're like, no, you kind of just have a vision for what you think is going to work, and then. And they said, well, if you can figure out a way to do the box part, that's great. But really, you should do this. And they were right. People want to see, they like to be able to see the shapes, and you don't get the visibility.
The shapes are so lovely too. I mean, I guess you definitely want to be able to see them. I mean, they're so pronounced in the packaging. It does actually look really nice.
Yeah, I made a few phone calls, and I said, hey, this is what I want to do, and. Not that I sound particularly young on the phone, but when I first called, probably roughly 5 years ago, the guy was like, "How old are you?" Because I think he might have thought that I was like some teenager who was just doing this as a joke, but I was very serious about it. And so he kind of explained the process in terms of they use all Italian machinery. And they produce, high-end pastas with gourmet cheeses, and then they do other pastas. They do soup mixes, I think, as well. So They have a whole line of products. And so I said, okay, well, great. So then, what are the next steps? And the guy said, well, you're going to need to, because I already kind of roughed out the pasta shapes. And he said, okay, well, we will need to send your artwork to Italy, to the company that engineers the dye.
Wow.
That goes into the machine. So, the pasta gets run through the machine, and it gets pushed out, and then it gets sliced. And I said, great. And I said, well, what's the time frame, and how soon? And he's like, well, if you want to get this done, he said, I'm going to need everything in like 2 weeks, because I think I contacted him in June, and it had to be done, and the dye had to be completed before Italy goes on holiday for like the whole month of August.
Yeah.
So they have a much nicer vacation scheduled in the United States.
Just stop working for a while.
They basically do. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, okay. I'm like, I'll do it. So I got everything in, and they got the dye back, and then I think I got the samples, like sometime in the fall. It's like, I can't compare it to having a child since I don't have one myself, but it feels like, the process with anybody who creates something like this, it is like having a baby.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, we're in this phase, and then the next one. And
It reminds me a little bit of like animation, where you might draw an animatic, send it to Korea.
Yes, and then you get something back. And it'll take a long time, and you may not know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and be very unhappy with what comes back.
Yeah, that's true. So, I got the exciting birth announcement from the manufacturer saying, here it is, and here's, they sent me a picture, and it's like, you're just kind of like having palpitations, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually happening. And
it's like, as somebody who makes films, and sometimes it takes 2 years to complete something, I can very much relate to the idea of bringing something from conception to completion, especially when it's sort of like a almost frivolous in premise, where it's like I want to make a web series about making mac and cheese.
Exactly.
And then you wake up one day and you've made 100 episodes.
You see it on a shelf and it looks great, but you don't really think of all the work that went into it in the back end, and that's true of so many things.
Right.
Probably the hardest thing was trying to figure out the storage. Food storage is really complicated because you can't just nobody wants to buy food out of somebody's home. Like, you don't know what kind of home setup they have, right? And everything related to food has to be inspected. So, which I knew that. I've worked in restaurants in my past. And so, I'm very familiar about food storage, everything has to be off the, at least, I don't know what it is, 6 or 8 inches off the floor on certain racks. And, the health department comes and inspects anyone who's storing or selling food. Well, I don't have a warehouse. Where am I, what am I going to, how am I going to get the fulfillment done? Which was a little bit complicated. And so I started looking around for, who can store this for me and then do the fulfillment, because I can't do that.
Yeah.
And that was tricky.
So I imagine that you have to put in new orders for a certain quantity. What's a normal quantity, and do you have to sort of meet a number of sales to justify the orders? Is it kind of always this dance?
Well, it is. So they do it by weight first, and then they package it. So they know that roughly X amount of pounds equals 1,000 units, what have you. So, they said, well, what do you want to start with? And that's where you're like, well, how much is this going to cost? Because, the dyes are expensive, sending things to Italy, paying all the things that add up. It's not like, oh, $10 for postage from Italy. No, it doesn't work that way. Right. So you're like, well, how much mac and cheeses can I afford?
How funny is this joke?
You're thinking, oh, I should be able to sell through a batch in, X amount of time. So you just kind of project. And then, of course, it never turns out the same way. that you expect that it will. When actually this affected the episode with you guys last year. They had thought that they would be able to, produce it, pretty quickly, based on the first round. But then they got like some huge order from, a foreign country. And they were like, hey, obviously I'm like a total small fry. So I actually ended up selling out by Christmas time. So I didn't have more to do, just for that particular episode. When you have a new product, generally you need to have a sales rep who will, rep your product. So because retailers do not, they don't have the time and capacity to listen to every little person who's like, hey, look at my cool product.
And I haven't seen you on Shark Tank with this yet.
I don't think that this is Shark Tank worthy.
Right.
Because of the size and the scope, etc.
I think just getting turned down flat by them would be like worth it.
That's true. Well, actually, I guess it's the same way. So I found out about your show because I was doing an event in San Francisco. So there's they have this really cool event called the Treasure Island Flea Market, and it's once a month and it's 2 days. And so I was like, okay, I think I'll do a few local shows and kind of see like, how it goes, and just for exposure, because I knew it was going to take me a little while to like get into retail, and I have a full-time job, so I can only do so much, and you just kind of have to pace yourself. I wasn't like, I'm getting this out there and I'm going to sell a bazillion units.
And they store for a while, don't they?
Oh yeah, the shelf life is incredible because it's pasta, right? Because it's premium, it's shelf stable, so it's not. That's definitely the nice thing. So I grew up like a couple blocks from DC in Maryland. There's a store called Chocolate Mousse. I knew it would be perfect there, and I said to them, hey, I was back home for something, and I dropped some samples off. And in general, that's almost kind of what it comes down to. Stores that you are familiar with or that you've been to, it's not like there's a huge margin on this, so it's hard to get a rep. The commission, it would eat all of the profits, and I wouldn't be able to do the donation part that is really important to me.
So talk about that, because we haven't mentioned that yet, which is that there's like some portion of proceeds go to food banks.
Before Mac and Cheesus came into my life, before I accepted Cheesus as my savior. I've always liked to volunteer. That's just an important, something that's just been something throughout my life. And so I always knew that whatever I was going to do, I wanted to have some way to take what I had done and donate to, something that's meaningful to me. So for this one, the food bank thing just, is an obvious connection. I always joke around that it could be considered an insurance policy because, if somebody were to take this very seriously and feel that, that any offense was intended, which absolutely it isn't. I always just say, that nobody's ever been struck by lightning or, enjoyed this product, but that is absolutely not the intent. I figured out a little bit late in life that if I could be Paul Newman, that's who, he's not my spirit animal, he's my spirit person, I suppose. He took his success and, created a company with all those products. They donate all of their proceeds to nonprofits. So, which is just amazing. And clearly the Paul Newman thing is not going to work out for me. It's my little way of following that same model.
Have you had people who have looked at the product and they're either offended by it or don't get it?
Yeah, generally most people just think it's very funny, or cute or whatever. Most of my family is, pretty liberal, and I think in general Catholics have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
To my family, this was normal. However, we have some very conservative members of my family as well, and so I was a little bit concerned because I wouldn't want them to think, I'm not doing this to, push anybody's buttons or anything.
Sure.
And so when I told a couple of them, I got a little like, oh. Like Katie. I said, once you see it, I said, then you'll get it. And so generally, the conversions have happened, and the handful of people that were concerned have accepted that this is a positive thing, and they're not like giving me the
the eye.
If I was like a progressive church and I wanted to bring in some children into the parish, this is the way I do it.
I mean, it's so fun, right?
I remember on the Christmas special when we reviewed it, you were noticing how like the cut was like.
Yeah.
Sort of,
so I could tell right off the bat it was a really high quality pasta. I mean, you could tell. I thought it was metal die cut. It's metal dies, right? That do the pasta on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could tell because the some of the shapes, the way they're kind of twisted, it means it's small batch. And we saw, I mean, it's incredibly high quality pasta.
I thought it was for a cartoonish effect.
No, actually, there's a wand that'll come around and cut them. And what this actually is drag from the wand that's coming around and cutting. It speaks extra of the quality of it.
I think it's probably important to understand then the product is slightly warped.
Yes. Yeah, they end up twisted because of that cutting process.
It just goes with the theme.
Cross, fish, G's head. The Cheesus head is the one that's most detailed.
Yes. That one's kind of an incredible shape. I don't think I've seen any other pasta shapes that are quite that complex.
Yeah, I was so happy with how that one turned out because I wasn't sure, you don't know like what the engineering behind a pasta shape, like, is it going to work or is it not? Everybody sees something different. One of my cousin's kids, they had made it for them for dinner, and then they tried to give them a regular mac and cheese, I don't know, the next week, and they said, no, I want the one with Olaf, and because they don't know.
I'm very impressed that you were able to make a pasta shape noticeably Jesus.
Because it really does look like the classical kind of image of Jesus.
Although we should be clear, there is an internal story logic to her whole line of mac and cheese, which is that this is not Jesus, this is Cheesus.
Jesus, of course.
Who is a cousin of
yes.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And I guess...
It has very similar aesthetic and look.
I guess is a kind of lesser known savior.
He leads you to salivation, is what I always say.
Oh, he gives you salivation. I like that one.
and if you buy a bag of mac and cheesus, you can find at least 17 other puns just like that.
Yes, all over the bag.
All over the bag.
Anoint thy pasta with cheeses. Good Lord, it's good. 10 minutes to a miraculous meal.
So when you were at that San Francisco flea market, how did you find out about BoxMac?
Oh, okay, right. So I'm there and in my booth and, people are walking past and, certainly the Bay Area, when you were saying, do people recognize it? Are they confused? Are they offended? Generally, no one's offended. You would see people read all of my signage and then 2 seconds later, as they kind of continue walking, then you see them start to laugh, or they see it from further away and they start laughing ahead of time, which is always, that's very satisfying. Yeah. But this one guy stops by and he's like, oh my God, do you have one that's gluten-free? And I said, it's a miracle that this even exists. So no, I'm not. But so he starts telling me about, oh my God, there's this show on YouTube. He's like, I love it. He's basically obsessed with you guys. And he's like, it's called BoxMac. And I said, I don't watch a lot of YouTube. And I'm like, I've never heard of it. I have no, I'm totally clueless. This is my first foray into this. And so he's like, you've got to submit the product. And I was like, oh, okay. Thanks so much for the rec. I really appreciate you telling me. And then I took a look at your website and the videos, and I thought, these guys are serious about the reviews. And I'm like, I'm confident that this is a really delicious product. And to be purely honest, I did not grow up eating mac and cheese out of a box, and my mom did not make it that often. When I see that you guys are serious about it, I'm like, well, what if they don't like it? I can't afford a bad critique. So what if they're like, man, this thing sucks? Which I didn't think that would happen, but still.
Have you heard of the mac and cheese line Bonza? We had a fan send it in, so it wasn't because with you we were like, well, what if we don't like it?
Yeah, we actually did consider that. I remember with your macaroni and cheese, I actually did one first to make sure that it was going to be good enough, because we didn't want to slander your brand if we ended up hating it. We were just going to kind of push it aside.
But with Bonza, it was just another mac and cheese to us, and we tried it, and there were some things we liked about it and some things we didn't.
Yeah.
But the guy who is in Forbes top 100 new entrepreneurs,
yeah,
and he's got Bonza in retail all over the place. The dude reached out and was like, I'm really going to have to look into why it boiled up that way, and really appreciate your comments about the box. And he was super nice. And so now I want to try his brand again, and I'd love to do an interview like this with him at some point.
Yeah.
That's really cool that he followed up with you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah. Super nice guy. You're talking to guys who have eaten now hundreds of varieties of mac and cheese from around the world. And you actually do have a record as being the top shaped pasta that we've ever rated.
The best shaped pasta macaroni and cheese we've ever had.
Yeah.
Wow.
That manufacturer makes it.
Well, as a product, between the cheese and the pasta, it is our number one shaped pasta mac.
Did you choose the cheese too? Did you get to sample a bunch of cheeses and go, yeah, that one?
No. Actually, that's something that they because really all of their products are premium. And so, no, it wasn't like I could be like, oh, could I have something with more of a hint of gorgonzola or, no. And it's funny because somebody said to me, well, have you tried it yet? And I said, well, actually, no.
What?
I know that might sound crazy, but I actually ordered they have a Star of David pasta. And so I was like, well, I'm going to use that for my prototype, because technically, well, we won't get into the religious history here. That was always sitting on my desk. So every day I'm like, motivation. I've got to work on this.
I assume you've had it since then. Have you had it yet?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And so, right. So as soon as they sent me the first case of samples, I could not wait for my husband to get home from work. I'm like, we're having this for dinner. And so I got like the whole kitchen ready because I'm not like a mac and cheese expert. Like for instance, for you guys, like you would know right away, is it good or is it not? And then I took a bite and I'm like, this stuff is good. And so I was like, yes. I'm like, okay.
To tell you the truth, we've tried a number of other kind of shaped, even novelty pastas, and they don't even come close.
No.
Like they're miles away.
So we agree it's good.
Yeah.
We agree it's funny.
Yeah.
It goes to a good cause if you buy it.
That's right.
It's got wonderful graphic design.
Yes, the packaging is really beautiful.
So if we ran a promotion back in December for the Christmas special,
Yeah.
what was that promotion, Katie?
So what we did is that anyone who saw the episode, we did a special donation of $2 per package. So normally I donate at least 50 cents. I would like to push that donation amount up as I go, but until I become flush with the cheddar, as it were. For this we did a $2 donation per package to No Kid Hungry. So so I left that up. So it's that will be in perpetuity.
So basically, we lied to the fans. Which is great.
We did? What do we do?
Because we said that it was a Christmas promotion, but
Yes.
in actual fact, the promotion kept running.
The promotion keeps going. So if you watch your Christmas episodes in June, you can take advantage of it right now.
So it's Jesus, not Cheesus.
Yeah, it's Jesus, I'm hungry.
imhungry.com/BoxMac.
It's going to be right here, right?
And you can go there and you can help kids.
Yeah.
Hopefully they...
And get a great, funny, delicious, and very attractive-looking macaroni and cheese product.
I think they should... every fan should buy at least one.
I think so.
Just for the novelty of it. Katie, this was awesome. You're doing a fun thing. I think you should be extremely proud of yourself, and I'm incredibly impressed that you took something so kind of like in its inception, so ludicrous, and brought it all the way to where it is now. It's kind of a lesson to the fans that if your dog sitter says something crazy, run with it.
Run with it.
Thank you guys. I can't thank you enough for for featuring it and then doing this follow up and it's just been amazing. So I'm very honored. Thank you.
And we'll see you guys later.
I'm BoxMac.